And welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard D. the Cruz
Hello.
and Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater, who is not here with us today. It is October 20th, 20th, 2025. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/gaming discourse, patreon.com/the gaming discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. We're doing Quick and Dirty podcast again this week. Hopefully within the next few weeks we'll be back in studio, and I'll have all the equipment set back up, and we'll have our nice mics and then the nice camera and all that stuff, and we'll have that good to go. But for now, we got to stick with recording over Discord, which actually the sound quality isn't like horrendous. It's actually not
No, it's
that
good.
bad at all. It's usable in a pinch, which is where we're at right now. I wrote about some games that I played on during Steam Next Fest, which I think ended today. Last week was the latest Steam Next Fest. If you go to our Patreon page, it's a public post. Anybody can read it, whether you're subbed or not. I just went through a couple of the games that I played and ones that stood out to me and ones that I liked. And actually, one of the developers of one of them saw it on Blue Sky and reposted my little write-up, which I was grateful
They're
for.
stalking you.
Yeah, yes. No, for a game called One Rotten Oath, which is a really interesting horror game that looks like almost like a Flash game. It looks very simplistic and amateurish in a way. It has full motion video FMV elements. Very low budget. Like the zombies in the game are just, you can tell the developer just filmed himself and a couple other people doing like zombie walk animations, and then that's what they
Rolled with
use.
that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so, but if you sit down and play it, the atmosphere and the story, it's got this really interesting because from if you just look at screenshots, it looks very simplistic, and I don't mean amateurish in a derogatory sense. I just mean it in a literal sense. Like it just looks like somebody doing their first thing or whatever. But when you play the game and you hear the music and the atmosphere and stuff like that, it actually is very unsettling and creepy. And I think part of that is because of how simple the game looks. Again, it's called One Rotten Oath. How simple the game looks, and also like because it's about it's like a sad apocalypse. Each like there's different types of zombies, and each zombie has sort of a story behind how that archetype of zombie was changed. So like there are athletic zombies, and according to their, I guess, lore, the athletic zombies were soccer players that wanted to keep playing, because it was like a lab leak in this story, so it was like a virus or something. I don't remember, but so it's like some people ignored the warnings and then they turned, and so there's all kinds of interesting tidbits in there about that I think called back to COVID and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know when it's coming out, and I'm not sure how much longer the demo is going to be up. But I would recommend that one for a quick, like, 20-minute short shot of horror, because I really enjoyed it. Did you get to play any Next Fest demos?
I completely forgot about Next Fest, to be quite honest. I think it was last podcast when we were talking about it. I took a look through the list, and there were things that definitely looked interesting, but I unfortunately just never got around to it.
Steam, between like the two big innovations of the past 5 years for Steam are the Steam Deck and Next Fest, and both things have, I think, changed the games industry. The Steam Deck started this rush to a handheld market, right? Trying to figure that out
Yep. Yep.
for the rest of the industry, and which the Switch. I don't think the Switch did that, because the Switch, it was like a whole console thing. The
No, yeah,
Steam Deck, the Steam Deck showed that there was demand beyond somebody's like core machine, that they want to do something else outside
yeah,
of it. You know.
yeah.
Um,
The problem, I think the barrier between something like Steam and Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft is all the bureaucracy that goes into like okay, like I have to update my game, I have to send it into Sony, and then they have to approve it before I get the yes or no if I can release it. Whereas,
Yeah, you have to send it
and
into
that, yeah. So,
certification.
yeah, certification and all that jazz, and of course, Steam or sorry, Switch showed the gaming industry that people don't mind having, a less powerful device as long as they can take their games on the go. So, yeah, Steam kind of piggybacked on that with a somewhat more powerful, or definitely a more powerful machine. But Next Fest, as you say, definitely. I'm very happy when I began to play PC games again. When I got my Steam Deck, Next Fest is quite incredible, and I'm glad it happens somewhat frequently, so that you were just able to experience more and more games that people are doing, and we get to see what really is driving the gaming industry rather than the AAA stuff that we're getting nowadays.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing that Steam is built for. It's the kind of thing that really helps with like smaller games. I think
Yep.
I think maybe a disadvantage to people that are making bigger games is like how would you do a demo for Cyberpunk, right? A game as massive as Cyberpunk, or a game as massive as Witcher or Red Dead Redemption. Like, do you just do a 2 hour trial? Like, how would you handle that? So bigger games that have like bigger budgets, I think, are going to be more difficult as demos become increasingly ubiquitous and utilized in the industry, while smaller games like the indie horror games that I played, or small shooters or small puzzle games or whatever. There was a puzzle game I played during the previous Next Fest that was really cool. I have it on my wish list. I want to get it this year, and I forget what it's called, but it's this interesting puzzle game that's based on a grid. You play as a robot and like a dog or something. I don't remember. But I played it for 5 minutes and I was like, "Oh damn, this is awesome!" And so I like stopped playing the demo, wishlisted it, and I probably would have never discovered that had it not been for Next Fest. So, yeah, and but of course it that also comes with all sorts of, because now developers have to plan for it. So now it's like, um, you can't just make and release your game. Now, if your game is a year out, you also have to schedule, okay, well, we got to have stuff ready for Next Fest, which is a problem, but I think maybe could be also an opportunity. I don't know. Okay. So you did you finish Are you like done with Expedition 33?
Yeah, I moved on from it. I didn't even, I was like, no, I'm not gonna.
I think we're in the same boat. I just
I'm
wasn't
not going
interested
to.
in the bosses that was like, all right, you have to parry this guy 100 times, and I was like, nah.
And I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, no, it was just just like you had a problem towards the end of Silent Hill F, where it was just kind of like a boss rush. That's kind of what happened here with Expedition 33. It just kind of became not just a boss rush, but it's you know an enemy going 5 turns before you can even do anything, and they have abilities that if you get hit by it, then you're kind of screwed for you know, 5 turns until you can make one choice. That's all you get is one choice to like either like protect yourself and start the cycle all over again, or you know, hopefully get out of that cycle and move on. So yeah, I was just like, I kind of did this as a quick anecdote when I was younger. I was playing Final Fantasy VII on PC back in the early 2000s, and I got to Sephiroth, the final fight, and my computer crashed, and of course I lost the save, and when that happened, I
Ugh.
was just like,
That
yeah, yeah,
sucks.
it does suck, but when that happened, I was just like, I beat it. Because it's like I was on the final boss. Like, what am I like? What else do I got to do? You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I felt here. Like, I was on the final boss. So I was just kind of like, yeah, right, I did it. Like I have so much other stuff to move on. I've been wanting to play Silk Song forever, and then of course, Pokemon ZA came out, and then Ghost of Yote came in. So I started that. So I have been jumping back and forth between multiple things, and so I guess I'll start with
Nice.
Pokemon ZA. I think I'll start with. I was playing that because I haven't played a Pokemon game in a while, and now my stores do cards, Pokemon cards, and I kind of had that like itch to experience like something I grew up with again.
Uh oh. Okay.
So,
Be careful.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely it is worrisome. But yeah, I I started ZA and I'm about probably about like maybe 2, 3 hours into it, and although I haven't really done much, I will say I'm kind of having a blast with it. And ZA is kind of bringing a crazy big discussion to the forefront about how big Nintendo is and how much money they should put in a Pokemon game and how much more it should be nowadays compared to like its contemporaries and what Pokemon games should give its audience for the price they have to pay, et cetera, et cetera. Um, because we are playing a game that I don't know if you've seen the discussions, but we're playing a game
No.
where so the city is kind of lifeless. Like the buildings are JPEG, PNG files. They aren't like because you can't go in buildings or whatnot. They're kind of just like backdrops. So it's kind of like, okay, well, like why are there should be more to this than what you have given
Oh,
us. That
interesting.
is that
Okay.
that is the
Yeah.
that is the discussion.
Interesting.
And so that is more from the more critical side of the gaming industry and fans. But there are, of course, the large amount of people who buy the game who are playing it that are sitting there and just going, "Well, this game is fun, so why should it matter? Like, why should it matter that I can't see inside of that building? I can't even go in it. So, but the game is fun, so what does that matter?" And so then it becomes oh, well, you're defending $1 billion company, this and that, and so um, I'm leaning on the side of I'm having a bunch of fun and I don't care.
Yeah.
And it
Sure.
is fun. So it's no longer turn based. It's kind of this it's kind of like this action real time active fighting system.
Is it like real
I
time
really
with pause?
Yeah, it's kind of you played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? Or
Yes.
remake.
Yeah.
So
That one
you
was just
can't
turn based, wasn't it?
so you can't hack and slash it. It was not. It was kind of like hack and slashy, but you did
Oh,
have
okay.
to wait to do certain things.
Okay.
So let's see here. It has cooldowns. So your Pokemon have 4 different type of moves that you can perform. But once you choose one, the cooldown on that move starts. So if I choose to tackle, the cooldown resets and I have to wait to tackle again for a moment. But during this time, I can freely move around characters and I can roll and I can dodge and stuff like that. So it's definitely more action oriented than normal Pokemon games are, which are the simple, choose the attack, wait, they attack, you attack, kind of like normal Japanese RPGs are. Um, so you'll explore the city that's very French inspired, and you have a whole city at your disposal, and there are certain zones in the city that when you enter them, that's kind of like a free for all. Like there are wild Pokemon running in these areas of the city that you can choose to catch in there. And at night, those areas also turn into battle zones where if you're walking in there, anyone who sees you can battle you at any time. So it's this really interesting mix of like a well, not fully explorable city, but an explorable city with pockets of areas that, depending on when you're running around at night, can be either dangerous or fun. Whether, deciding on whether you want to pursue like climbing up in the rankings or just catching Pokemon for fun. But maybe it's the fact that it's something different compared to the normal formula of Pokemon that is making it more attractive and quote unquote fun for everybody. But maybe it's, because after 30 years now, we're getting something different from the Pokemon, universe. And so everybody's just kind of accepting it and having, ignoring the blemishes, so to speak, to enjoy like a new entry in the series. But I'm having fun with it so far. I don't know if I will like beat it or go through all of it, but it's kind of just scratching an inch right now. Um, but I am having a lot of fun, and I think it actually looks good. I think the character models are really great, and they're probably the most expressive that I've ever seen Pokemon character models to be, especially in the facial animations. I will say the biggest downside, though, is there's still to this day no voice acting in the game. which I don't think that
Oh,
Pokemon really
interesting.
needs. Yeah, I don't think that Pokemon needs voice acting. However, if they were to do it, someone has already made examples on Twitter, but uh, basically they've created like their own language, kind of like a mixture of like Japanese and French. And so if these characters speak like a gibberish, like Hollow Knight, like the characters speaking kind of
Like
like
a
a gibberish.
whatever language the Sims speak. I forget what it's
Yeah, right,
called.
like Similish, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if they had a voice like that, I think I would be very accepting of that rather than like English voice acting or something like that. Just because I don't know, it's because the world of Pokemon is so fantastical in certain ways. It feels weird to have English voice acting it or Japanese voice acting, whichever or. But who knows if we'll ever get that. Um, moving on, I am playing. I started up Silk Song. I am playing that a little bit. Uh, and there's some good to it. There's really good to it. Hornet, the main character, can speak, which Hollow Knight never spoke. He was a silent character protagonist, but Hornet speaks, and so that kind of gives a lot more to the game as far as the player's interest. Because I guess how I feel about it is that the story is can bloom a little more if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You're
it
not
does.
kind of just you're not just kind of doing something to do it. You know that Hornet has motivations, and it's easier to digest as a story, I guess, if your main character can talk in some ways. The bad part for me right now about Silk Song is that there's a disconnect for me playing the game and how I'm feeling playing the game. It plays very well. It's very tight. It's very responsive, but I'm not feeling anything when I play it. Um, in fact, I'm kind of playing it, and the entire time I'm running through the game, mentally, I'm kind of like, this is just more Hollow Knight, which is weird because Hollow Knight is not a bad game, but and not that I expected Silksong to feel any different or play any different, but I guess it feels like I never left Hollow Knight while I'm playing Silksong. So in that instance, it's like, wow, I'm continuing my 80 plus hour gameplay from Hollow Knight just in Silksong, which I suppose makes sense because Silksong was originally like a DLC, but they just made it into a full fledged game. So, um, yeah, I've fought a couple bosses, and it's more of just okay, what is this boss gonna, like Expedition 33, what is this boss gonna do? Okay, now I have to memorize what he does so that I can come back, and I will die, maybe, maybe not, and then I will come back, get my stuff, and then figure out, his patterns so that I can dodge those, and then et cetera, et cetera. But it looks really good. It looks really good. And the frame rate is great on it. Of course, it is. It's 2D action platformer, so nothing wrong with that. But I will. I'm still going to be dipping into it. I think I'm going to have to treat Silk Song as more of a game to kind of dink around with rather than like put a ton of hours in. So it might take me longer to play than
Ah,
normal.
okay, gotcha.
Uh, but I did get Ghost of Yotei. And I am playing Ghost of Yotei. I'm not very far. I just got past kind of the first flashback sequence you have when you go back to Atsu's home,
Okay.
and you kind of do those like flashback sequences.
Mm-hmm.
I felt weird when I was first playing it. I don't know if you and Connor talked about this, but when I was playing the initial fight sequences, they kind of just kind of threw you into the fire. And they didn't really give a in-depth like tutorial. Um,
Yeah, I think now that you mention it, I feel like there is like an expectation that you kind of understand a little bit what's going on. What
yeah, yeah.
I don't really remember if it be, I think you're right. Yes, I think you're right.
So, and that's the once again, and that's not an issue. That's not an issue that you don't give me a tutorial. I think it's fine. But Atsu does play different than Jin does, slightly. Like the parries are not the same. The like blocking is the same, but just movement wise, I guess what I'm trying to say is I would have liked to have been eased back into it, I guess. And
Yeah.
so
Because the game
with the
opens with a boss fight. Yeah.
yeah, the game opens with the boss fight, and yeah,
Yeah.
I mean Tsushima kind of does too in some ways, but um, but yeah, I died a couple times, and I was like, wow, this is weird,
I did too.
because
I did too
because
during, yeah.
because it was just yeah, because yeah, like I said, once again, they tell you the things that you need to know when you needed to know it, which is how a tutorial is by and large, but I felt like they told you things like right when you needed to make that split second. Like, hey, you need to heal like right now. The blade is in your
Yeah,
face. You should
yeah.
probably heal. And I was like, whoa, okay.
That's a part of why Connor and I think both thought that the beginning is a little clunky. Like a
Yeah,
bunch happens, and then you hit the open world, and so like they really wanted to, because the beginning of, maybe it's not, but I thought the beginning of Ghost of Tsushima was way longer, like the prologue. Um,
yes, it is because it's you and your uncle going through the battlefield.
Yeah, and then there's like the
Yeah, and
whole
then
lead up, and then Jin's like army
yeah,
gets killed, and then he goes
hmm
back to Khan, and then they have, and then you fight, and then he falls off the bridge. So there's like a whole like prologue that happens there, where
yeah,
the prologue here feels very much sped up, and I partially it's because so much of her life happens like she just narrates it. You
yeah,
don't get to see it because when you see Jin, you you're continuing Jin's life, right? It's like the uh, the Mongols invaded. Jin maybe gets killed, maybe doesn't. Depends on how you want to interpret it, or I don't know if the game actually answers that. And then he wakes up, and then the game starts. So it's like you're not disconnected from the character. Where Yote, it's you see her as a kid, a bad thing happens, that starts her journey, and then you catch up with her when she returns to uh, northern Japan, right?
yeah, right.
And it's
And
like and she's like, I was in the army, and you're like, holy shit, you were in 16, like 16 or 19, 16, I forget how many years it is, but it's like that's a long time, like military service, traveling, like what all did you do? Jeez, you know. But I think it's mostly fun. You're gonna say something?
yeah, yeah, no, and I think maybe that's what's like weird about it because it happens very fast. And so with Ghost of Tsushima, I think has an incredibly effective opening to the point where once you're let loose and you begin to ride through the field of flowers, and then like Ghost of Tsushima pops up and like all the title card and all of that, it really gives you like the sense of like a real great big sense of awe. But I will admit we hadn't seen anything like that before when Tsushima came out. But with Yote, when it happened, it felt like they were just kind of like, okay, here it is, like here we go,
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I would
it
agree.
was just very quick to like get to it. So,
Yeah.
so I think that right now, um, I haven't, once again, I haven't done a whole ton yet, but I think I am kind of, it is, as you and Connor kind of explained, it is like I went off on a running start and kind of just had a stumble. Like, and it's kind of stumbling right now. Um, but I think the ball will keep rolling.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the flashback portions. I do appreciate them for like backstory stuff, but um, I don't know if I want to search them out, if that makes sense.
I don't think there's very many of them, and they are pretty heavy. They're because I don't know, maybe 15 hours in now or so. It seems to me like they're pretty heavily front loaded. Like I did a couple flashbacks when I first started playing, and I've gotten to a second area now, and I don't think I have found another flashback yet. So I've done a lot. So I think the first couple flashbacks is just like front loaded material, I guess, because it's all sort of close to Atsu's house. So it's like naturally it's might be like the
Makes
first
sense.
things that you do or something like that. But yeah, I was kind of in the same way. I started and I was like, okay, this, and I agree that Atsu feels like she controls differently than Jin. One reason is you have to unlock dodging. I don't believe you had to unlock dodging in Tsushima. I don't think so. I think you could
No, I know
press
you do
circle and
have
roll.
yeah, you have a tap circle twice to like kind of do like a quick dodge.
Yeah, in
But I
Yote,
had to read that.
yeah, in Yote you have to unlock that. You have to unlock like the dodge that gets you further away,
Mhm.
which makes combat, which is important to combat because the enemy attacks like go further. They're sort of harder to get out of the way from, and that makes red attacks difficult to dodge. But I think the game keeps getting better and better as I've played it. I think the story keeps getting more interesting. I think Atsu gets more interesting. It's interesting to have a character that is, I don't know, she's not the. So it really leans into the Western theme, but she's not a John Marston. She's not an Arthur Morgan. Like this
Yeah.
lovable sort of kind of a goofball sometimes, but also has a mean streak. This somewhat maybe gregarious. Atsu's not like that. Atsu is very she's like a puffer fish. It's like she's very spiky. She's very mean. She's very down. To the point, and I don't know. I just love that whole vibe. I love the whole Western vibe of it, and I think they've leaned into that. And even in parts, Connor mentioned a horror quest that I finished just the other day, and I thought was
Oh,
really
very cool.
cool. And so it's just how it balances tone because you're in 1600s Japan, and it's also doing a Western sort of theme, and then you get to like Japanese mythology stuff, and it does a good job balancing all that, balancing all those things that are like, and it's not just a Western theme in that it is about someone returning for revenge. There are also like guitar strums, and there is ambient music that sounds like it's straight out of Red Dead Redemption, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they balance that all really well, and yeah, as I've met further characters and stuff like that, you once you begin to piece the other thing the game doesn't explain explicitly is the politics of the world. So Tsushima, you knew that, right? The Mongols invade, they're the bad guys.
Correct.
That's the situation, right? Yote is like different because there is no invasion. This is just two Japanese like factions and politics. So you're not even sure like what side, like what are the sides, what's going on, and it doesn't tell you that explicitly from the get go. So you kind of just have to pick it up as you go. But as you begin to pick it up, I think it gets interesting. I don't know if you've met Clan Matsumai. I think it's pronounced Matsumai. So there's like another clan in the region that has been
Oh, the name has been thrown around. Yeah.
yeah.
And then the
So
the other the Ainu
yeah, and
I ran into.
I think they're like nomads. I don't think they are like a um
They seem indigenous. They sound
yeah, maybe
indigenous.
indigenous is a better word for it. Because I don't think they are like a clan, like in the way Matsumai is or Tokugawa or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, once you so the difference is like for the Mongol Empire, it was a quest, it was a conquest, right? Which is easier to condemn. But when you have warring factions, I think the who is the bad guy, who is the good guy is much more dirty here in Yote once you start to figure out the different sides and sort of the goals of the people that are involved. And as you meet more characters, the politics get increasingly like complicated. One thing that I like about Atsu a lot is that Atsu is, I don't know, if she was born in 1970s London, she'd be a punk rocker. Like she's anti-authorian. She doesn't like to be told what to do. She bucks the system. She not only because of her gender, but also I think she just doesn't like the idea of having to serve somebody. I think that's the whole thing with a wolf, right? She's a like to bash it over the head, bash a metaphor over the head. She is a
Yeah.
lone wolf, right? And so when she meets characters that are samurai, like characters that are part of Clan Matsumai, and these characters are part of a system. They are a part of something greater than themselves, right? Because they are a samurai in this like bureaucratic, militaristic system that follows honor, different things, different types of, honor code, and they follow the orders of somebody. They're in their own like military industrial complex, and she, chafes off that. She bounces off that, so that creates some interesting character dynamics as well. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what you say if you stick with it. I think the combat is excellent. The more I play it, uh, and yeah, I don't know if you noticed if you watch like when swords hit, but I don't know if any other game has captured where it's like every time I make a swing, it's almost like I can tell exactly where that swing hit on the NPC's sword. Like I don't know if another game has ever made me feel that. Maybe it's because a lot of the swings like will get slowed down a little bit here and there, and there's sparks. But like I feel like I can see each individual swing and where it lands, as opposed to, something like Dark Souls or whatever, where you're in an animation and an enemy is in an animation, and you both swing at each other, and, you get hit mid-animation, and it's still great and still fun, but it's like you have no idea where you actually hit the guy because he's doing a somersault spin.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like as soon as Atsu lands a cut, it's like you can tell exactly where that cut went, and there's nothing while it is based on like tried and true combat structure, right? Press Y to parry, although in this it's like L1 to parry or
L1.
whatever.
Yeah.
um there's not another combat system I can think of that is as like, if you get through a whole fight without being touched, it's just so satisfying. And
Satisfying.
then
Yeah,
you
very
and then you
satisfying.
you clean off that katana and put it away, and it's just like it does not get old. Even if it's just a couple of random bandits, it just does not get old. Maybe Batman, maybe the Arkham games had something similar. You beat up a couple guys and Batman didn't even get punched. Maybe you feel something
Yeah,
similar.
Batman and Spider-Man have that for
Yeah.
sure. Sleeping Dogs is another one that has that also.
But anyway, I'll have more to say about that. I need to play it more. But Battlefield 6, every time, just imagine the Battlefield theme, ba ba ba,
Yeah,
super loud volume. Every time I look at my PC, it's just like ba 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 ba. I'm just like, no, no, I have to work. I have to do other things. And then if I walk by my room, I could just hear ba 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 ba. We're losing Alpha. And I'm like, no, I can't
Oh
do it
no,
right now.
no.
No. Spawn at the point. I need reinforcements. I'm like, no, I can't do it right now. I have to live a life. But man, so sorry. Is there anything else you would like to say about Yote or anything?
I'm just very excited to get to more Yote. I know it's mostly just a instead of growing pains, it's a starting pains, and it's just getting more used to it, getting more used to the game itself. And I'm just ready to get the ride going. But yeah, I just haven't had enough time to really
dig
get like
into
a
it.
good sense of it. Yeah, but I will for sure.
I found an armor the other day that is just such a badass looking set of armor, and again, it plays into the whole. It looks like a. I'm not even sure how to describe this. It looks like a samurai version of a duster, like a Western duster. It
Very
looks
cool.
like a samurai version of that. And man, as soon as I found that, I threw that on. I popped on one of her like sun hats, like the really wide hats, and I was like, hell yeah! Like, I don't care what this armor does. I am role playing like cowboy. It doesn't matter, and it's so awesome. But yeah, okay. Well, I'm excited for you to play more of that. I will talk more about Battlefield 6, but we're gonna talk a little bit of news about Battlefield 6. So maybe I'll just, I don't know, fold that in together.
Blend the two.
Yeah, and so we'll do our go This is the commercial. Well, maybe we'll have one next week. Subscribe, youtube.com, gaming discourse, patreon.com, gaming discourse. We don't have a song. Maybe we'll have it back next week. Okay, so let's get to the news. I wanted to sort of pose a question, and you still haven't played Battlefield 6, so
Only the beta. Yeah.
only the beta. So maybe your the best opinion that you can give. But I kind of wanted to pose like, what do we think Battlefield Battlefield 6's success means to us? What do we see in it? What do we see in the reaction? How do we interpret it? In a press release, EA said that Battlefield 6 sold 7 million copies in the first 3 days. According to Steam DB, Battlefield 6 reached a peak of 747,440 players. That was on October 10th. I don't think that may have been the day it came out. It hasn't reached that again, but it has had a solid player base of almost like 500,000 players, I think nearly daily. So, yeah, I could give more impressions on Battlefield 6, and maybe I will as we talk about this. But I don't know, from your perspective, what do you like? Why has this resonated? Why do you think? Yeah, like how do you interpret Battlefield 6's success?
I hope it's the realization of what the people who knew who had my God, my words. I hope it's the realization of what people were talking about in Battlefield 3 and 4, the foresight of what people were talking about with Battlefield 3 and 4. Um, let me try to like explain. So by the time Battlefield 3 and 4 came out, there was already discussions about how Call of Duty kind of, I don't want to say was overstaying its welcome, but we knew by that point that every game was just kind of the same for the Battlefield series or the Call of Duty series.
Yeah.
And since then, the Call of Duty series has kind of like evolved into this like incredibly frustrating, ADHD filled Twitch shooter that people kind of begin to make fun of nowadays. And I think a chunk of the online community is kind of tired of it now, and so I think that Battlefield 6 after the trip up that was 2042. I think Battlefield 6, whoever is directing it, the team at Dice, decided to stick with what made like 3 and 4 really good, with some improvements and some additions from like other series. Um, and they people have now realized that they want a first-person shooter game that is more robust than Call of Duty is, in a sense that there are people online who are really excited about being a medic. There are people online who are really excited about being an engineer. Like, people are excited about having a role on the team without being a lone wolf.
Yes.
And those who have like bemoaned not getting their clips in because they can't be first place, like, are being drowned out by the people who are going, you're playing the wrong game, man. I think people are kind of clamoring for like a more community driven game. I think Battlefield is the closest thing. Well, no, sorry, I'm being very facetious when I say that. I stopped talking to people online back in Modern Warfare 2, the late 2000 Modern Warfare 2, because there was no longer any sense of like community or camaraderie when it comes to those games. Battlefield is not a game that you can jump in by yourself and do all right, but if you're not helping your team, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
And a lot of people, I think you realize that really fast when you go into Battlefield, because people who may or may not be coming in for the first time for Battlefield 6 because of the hype around it, they may not understand the ticket system. But after a couple respawns and you see like your numbers slowly dwindling, you may start to think, my respawns are taking away from these tickets.
Yeah, how do I manipulate this? How do I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Either how do I manipulate this, or how do I slow it down? How do I stop it? What is this system? And that's when you start to realize, like, wow, that guy's in quote unquote first place. What's he doing? Oh, he's a medic. He's just rezzing people. Oh, he has points because he's helping people survive to get the ticket back and,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
go back into the fight as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
There definitely is in the Battlefield series. There's definitely room to be. I'm not. There's definitely room to be like a one man army. There's definitely room to be the ace. The Maverick, and with the fighter jet. There is room to be a tank commander. There's room to be all of these roles, and I think that is enticing to a lot of people nowadays because tastes are changing, and nobody wants to get shot by somebody they can't see, and then you look at the kill cam and it's a guy spinning 360 degrees, shooting 45 degrees in the air, and the bullet just happens to drop on your head.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
People are happy about like a slower paced game, and I'm not saying like these are all the answers, but I think it's something that I myself have wanted for a very long time. I've always loved the Battlefield series more than the Call of Duty series because of a lot of these reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that it has caught up with more of the general public of what they want out of a multiplayer shooter.
I would say that Battlefield just has been better over the course of
Yeah,
its life. I would make that argument. I would die on that hill, and I would
yeah.
say it's
Well,
as a
I
series, it
agree.
probably has. I don't know if I think about like my favorite. If I think about battlefields that are really interesting or really good or did interesting things, I think about there are fewer battlefields, but I think about more battlefields than I think about Call of Duties. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I think
I think
Modern
that makes sense.
Warfare was innovative. Modern Warfare 2 was innovative and got super popular, right? But after that, it was like, yeah, World at War was good, but I don't know if World at War was particularly innovative. I think 2019 was pretty bad. It was bog standard. Call of Duty World War II was like pretty bad, but it was still Call of Duty. Where it's like Battlefield 1942, a classic, Battlefield 1943, the Xbox arcade one. That one is a
Yeah.
classic. Battlefield 2142, extremely well remembered. Battlefield 2, another game that is extremely well remembered. Battlefield 3, a lot of people say it's the best Battlefield in the series. Battlefield 4 came out, it wasn't good at launch, but I think as it like released and got fixed and stuff like that, I think people latched onto it and liked it a lot more. Um, I think Battlefield 1 was pretty good. I didn't play Hardline or 2042. I thought Battlefield 5 was fine. I didn't think it was bad at all. And then, yeah, Battlefield 6 is like kind of back to the 3/4 era, which I think a lot of people missed. That kind of vibe, I guess. But it's a good point you make about uh, people being excited to play as a medic or as an engineer, because it not only makes you excited to play a role, it makes you excited to play with other people, right? It makes you excited to have a medic in your squad or an engineer in your squad, because now those pesky vehicles that piss you off all the time, now you have someone you can coordinate with to take out. Or if you have a medic in your squad, now you have somebody who more than likely is going to res you, because they are in your squad and you're probably talking with them and hanging out or whatever, as opposed to the random medics that are like running around doing their own thing, or the random players that aren't really paying attention, whatever. So it makes you want to put together a squad that's working together, because you can build these classes in specific ways that have synergies that bounce off one another. The assault class has a spawn beacon, right? So it's like you can hide a spawn beacon somewhere, and then if you're trying to take an enemy objective and your squad gets wiped, you can just respawn at that spawn beacon, right? So that's something really valuable and really team centric that the assault class has, and the assault class is just the frontline fighter, right? That's for like the people that don't, would rather just get into the combat, maybe don't want to have to worry about specific roles. But there's a thing right there that even like that player can use to twist their gameplay, to twist their play style, to help like a broader collection of players, their squad. Yeah, I play as a medic, and it's a shit ton of fun, and I've had a lot of fun like building my how I want to play, because there's a as a medic you get you get your weapon obviously, and then you get, I want to say like 3 pieces of equipment, maybe 2. I don't remember. I don't know if I can put down the defibrillators or not. The defibrillators are how you res people. So I explained this last week, but in Battlefield 6, everybody can res everybody else. It just takes a while. With the medic, the defibrillators are instant. Like, as soon as I on you, you've got your gun, you're ready to go. Like, there's not even a blink. Like, it's instant, right? So if there's, like, a bunch of dudes down, it happens all the time where it's like if a bomb goes off and there's, like, 3 players are down, you'll just hear as a medic just runs and just reses them all, right? And just like that, a room with 3 dead teammates and 1 live teammate goes straight to a room with 4 live teammates. Or when you're capturing an objective, and a grenade takes out your squad, and all of a sudden, 3 enemy players are taking the point and you're holding the point, so it's going in their direction. You res your 3 squad mates, and it flips it back the other way just like that. So you canceled out the person that got the kill. It still counts on their personal stats, but from an objective standpoint, you just canceled out their kills because they're right back into the fight. So it's super valuable.
Yeah, and that's not to mention like the emotional response you get of, if I'm a medic and I have my crew, because in Battlefield, if you've never played it, those who are listening, you get put into squads of 4 people. And so with those 4 people, you can spawn on top, quote unquote, on top of any of them, as long as they're not in a firefight.
Yeah.
However, if I'm a medic and I spawn on one of my teammates and I'm on the field, you can see everyone else who is alive or who is dying, and you will get a HUD symbol basically of like, hey, this person needs to be rezzed. The emotional response that you get out of like separating from your team, whether it's a good idea or not, and heading to the firefight where these indicators are, so that you can res somebody who is on the verge of having to respawn. I don't, you probably aren't going to hear their response on the other line, but I know that if I'm in that same situation and I get rezzed by someone from across the map, I'm so thankful to that person.
Yes, you're
and
excited.
It's just like,
it's like,
thank
because
you
you're
so
a comeback. You're like, hell yeah, back in it.
Yes, yeah. And not just that, but there's also like, Battlefield also has a Call of Duty issue to where, well, I don't want to say Call of Duty, but Battlefield also has the issues of people who are narcissistic, and it's just like, dude, you're a medic. You just ran right past me. Like, what's the deal? Like, you will get those, but it is it is so much in your favor to res anyone and everything, like, as much as you can. But anyways, go ahead.
And in my experience, there's more than, like, in my experience, there's a shit ton of people who want to be a medic or want to be an engineer. The recon class is one that I have mixed feelings about, because I think they should just take snipers out of Battlefield. I don't like them. They don't help hold objectives. They're just for people that want to sit on a mountain somewhere and rack up kills, and that bothers me.
I just as a real quick anecdote, I loved. So yes, I do like to snipe, but I love being those guys because I love tagging everybody.
Yeah, that's one thing you can do. Yes.
I know everyone can do it, but man, I love to tag it.
And it does help, but it's just, I have experience with trying to take an objective, and like 100 meters away, there's a sniper who just won't get up to help me because he's like, oh, hold on, I'm trying to get a mile-long shot of a guy who's like back near their spawn, and I'm like, no, I need help. Anyway, sorry, it's traumatic. But the recon class has a bunch of useful things as well. They've got a little sensor drone thing that they sit on the ground, and in like a 10-meter radius, you can pick up enemies if they run into that circle. You can set down claymores, which are super useful. So you can. I was playing with a friend who was playing as recon, but because you can choose any weapon, they were recon with an assault rifle, I think. So they were using the recon class, but they weren't using a sniper rifle. And then we were holding an objective on the second floor of a building, and all we did was sit near the stairs, and I gave him ammo, and he set his claymore by the stairs and sat down his motion thing, and that's how we tracked when enemies were attacking us, and we worked together to kill them. Enemies would come up the stairs, they'd hit the claymore, he would get ammo from my ammo bag, because I always play a medic, which is, it's support now, so it's both medic and ammo. But, so he'd get ammo, and then he'd put down another claymore right there, And I explained this last week too, how so much feels overpowered in Battlefield. Like, I explained game mechanics to you, and it sounds like everything is broken, and in some ways it is. But everything is broken, so nothing is, if that makes sense. Like, if you get two guys behind you in a tank and they're repairing you, nothing can kill you. Like, because nothing can shoot you fast enough to kill you. Because you just gain health so quickly. But if the enemy tank has three guys healing, then you're toast. So it's like you have to work together somehow. Again, like jets, helicopters, they can be really annoying until two engineers say, "That's it!" And they pull out, stingers, and all of a sudden you're just firing stingers, and all that helicopter is doing is dodging stingers. So it's all about, like, and again, it's all about that teamwork, that communication, and sort of focusing on those things. But yeah, I think I'm a pretty good medic. My goal is to have, over the course of Battlefield 6, whenever I stop playing years down the road, my goal is to have more revives than kills. and right now I have like 100 more revives than kills, which sounds easy, but it's not always, because people die in a street or people die in an objective that's contested. It's not always super easy to pick people up. But you can slide in Battlefield 6, which you can slide in previous Battlefields, I'm sure. But that is so nice as a medic, because you can sprint, and as you're sliding, you can like res a guy as you're sliding over them and go right past them. It's so smooth and so fast, and it's so satisfying to be able to do that, especially if it's a place that's not safe. And man, I just love popping smoke. And I am like a suicidal medic, so it's like, oh, you died in the middle of the road, and there's like two enemy snipers, an enemy tank, and a helicopter. Guess I'm popping smoke and running out there, because I don't give a shit. Like, so it's like, I have so much fun with that, because the challenge is, for me, part of the fun is like, how much can I be a nuisance to the enemy team, Because they just killed this guy, can I revive him? And all of a sudden they're like, God damn it, you just got So it's like, to me, and revives are save tickets too, because you don't lose a ticket until you die, right? So if you're sitting there on the ground and you get revived, yeah, the kill counts for the person that killed you, but that ticket, we held that ticket for our team. So if I get 10 kills in a match and I get 30 revives, that's a net positive of, or I'm sorry, 10 deaths in a game and 30 revives. That's a net positive of 20 tickets, in that game. And that's not including like if I destroy vehicles or kill enemy players or whatever. So if you want to get into the math of it, but so yeah, it was bad. I played so much over the weekend. My mother-in-law, I was at her house for a while, and I was so terrified, because I was like, she's gonna think that I'm just one of those dudes that like disappears into their room. But I was like, I'm sorry, this game just came out. I never do this. I never go into my room like a cave troll and don't come out for 6 hours. I promise. But I was having so much fun. The most revives I have in a game is 54. That's my record right now. Which I was so happy about. I was so like proud of getting 54 revives in a single game. And but yeah, and that's the thing, is Battlefield allows players who would rather focus on other things than Twitch shooting, which there's some of that. But it's like, yeah, if you can be useful if you're not that good at shooting, because you can pop smoke. If you're good at taking objectives and being focused, or if you're good at, hunting enemy vehicles, like all of a sudden you can help your team in so many different ways. And I think and plus, you're playing with your friends and you're actually working together. Like, you can play Call of Duty with friends but it's just COD. You're just running around shooting, right? And there's team modes in
Yeah.
COD, but for the most part, you're running around shooting. But in Battlefield, the objectives are the thing. Conquest is like the core Battlefield mode. So it's all about working together and stuff like that. So I think a part of Battlefield 6's success, similar to like Helldivers, is that when you see a friend playing, you naturally want to play with them because you have somebody else to lean on, somebody else to work with. It's not like a solo experience. So it has a similar like effect phenomenon that like co-op shooters have, right? Where it's like if you get this, you'll have other people to play with. It's just in a multiplayer context. But yeah, I was trying to think about like other stuff. There's still some stuff that I'm not a huge fan of. There's weird UI bugs, which is strange. Like I can't see my tickets, but I can see the enemy team's tickets, so I constantly have to ask like, are we winning or losing? Because I have no idea. So like that's weird. I'm trying to think of like there's a bug where the end game music, like when things get intense, starts to
Yeah.
play as soon as the match starts. So for like 40
Oh,
minutes,
that's weird.
you just hear
Yeah.
bum 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 like for 40 minutes it's just bum 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 ba-da-da-da, bum bum bum. So it's like way more intense because for 40 minutes you're waiting. It's like the beginning of a Californication.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
don't get the crescendo for 40 minutes, so it's really intense. But um, so there's that, and yeah, the maps. I like the maps. I think the maps. I'm looking forward to getting more maps. I'm looking forward to bigger maps, but I don't think there are any bad maps. There are some maps that can get obnoxious if there's enough people doing a certain tactic. Like, there's a map with a bunch of spread out, like apartment buildings that are maybe like 20 stories tall. And so at any of these apartment buildings, you have a really good view of basically a massive chunk of the map, right? And multiple objectives. So if you're up there, you can cause havoc, and if an enemy has dudes up there, there's not a whole lot you can do except like focus on them for a little bit. So that can be annoying. But even then, I wouldn't say that objective is that or that map is bad. I like the variety of how they do objectives in Conquest. Some objectives are really big and are on a building that is both like the first and second floor. So if you take this objective, not only do you have to clear more enemies out, but you have more space to hold. And then there's objectives that it's like, it's the size of a fucking dinner table, and there's nowhere to hide. So you pop smoke, lay down, and just hope, right? And I'm fine with that. Because every map has like different sizes and different placements, and some maps, some objectives are under an overpass, so helicopter can't get you, or a jet can't bomb you. Some objectives are just in the fucking open, so it's just like good luck. And if you're really coordinating, then the objectives that are in the open, those are the objectives that you want your vehicles, right, like working with, because they'll be able to take out people. And then objectives in buildings, obviously those are the objectives for infantry, because vehicles are going to have a tougher time because they can't go in buildings. Although they can affect them by blowing away the walls or whatever. There's one map I really like that has two. It's kind of like two parking garages. They're not parking garages, but that's kind of how they're buildings that are being built. They're mid-construction, but that's how I would kind of describe their layout, because they're relatively empty, and I think they're two stories, maybe 3 stories, 2 stories, and
Okay.
they're right across from one another, and there's an objective in each one on the second floor of each one, and you can see into the other buildings. So you can see like people across. There's not a road. There's kind of a road in between them. So it's and then there are one of the new things is zip lines. So there are these that go up and down. You hit E and it's like your character latches on with some kind of little motor thing, and it goes
Yeah.
knee, and you go. You've probably saw it during the beta. Um, but they were at like multiple points of these objectives. So it's two big buildings, 2 floors, lots of points of entry, lots of windows, so lots of different ways to get shot, and you can see into the other building from across the way. So there's all these different little dynamics. Like, you can shoot at bad guys across the way in the other objective, or you can just hide, or you can do what I was describing earlier and like cover one of the entrances and hope that your teammates cover the other ones. Or you can. I've done it multiple times where we go to the roof of one of these buildings, jump off, parachute down, and try to enter through a window instead of going through the stairs or going up the zip line to
Ah,
try
that's
to
always cool.
attack like from a different angle or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, and assaulting them can be annoying because there's like gun emplacements and stuff, so people will as you're running up to it, it's just like World War I. You're just getting shot left and right. So as a medic, I carry a shit ton of smokes. All I do is just pop smoke everywhere, and smoke grenades are, I think, relatively useful because in Battlefield, especially in Conquest, you have portions of maps that are just wide open. And yeah, smoke's not going to make you bulletproof, but it does make you a lot harder to hit. So you can cover in advance. If you need to make it 30 meters and there's a guy on a machine gun, you pop a couple smokes and your chances increase by a lot. Partially because it's harder for you to get hit, and also because that guy probably gets bored shooting into smoke and shoots at something else. So it's like, hell yeah. So yeah, so yeah, that a lot of different stuff there, about Battlefield success and about and how I've been playing and how much I've enjoyed, and yeah, and all I'm doing is is support right now, and I'm having so much fun with it. So many times, uh, there is a tactic that we use to take out tanks where we get on an ATV and I drive, and the person I play with has an RPG, and they ride in the back of the back of the ATV, and we basically bum rush tanks in an AT, in a four wheeler, and he'll just shoot rockets at the tank, and we literally just go up to the tank and bash it. We do no damage, but he's shooting rockets as we go. And we're so fast that you can sort of sneak up on a tank, and if the tank sees us, all I have to do is live. So I'll like lay down near the tank, and if it takes out the engineer, I'll just run, bring up the engineer. The engineer will start shooting at it again. The tank panics. We've taken out multiple tanks by just like by just bum rushing them
Yeah.
and making them confused. I have a video where we hit a tank right in the front, and the tank was like looking to the side, and you can tell right at the end that it like starts to see us. And I get off the bike and I jump on top of the tank, and just to be annoying, I'm like shooting the top of the tank with my gun, even though I know it's not doing anything. But you can tell the guy in the tank is just panicking because he doesn't know.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
God, do they have C4? Do they have mines?
Nobody.
you know.
Yeah, nobody runs up on tanks like that, like ever.
Yeah.
So
So, but that's Battlefield. That's the kind of insane shit you can do, and it works. That kind of stuff is effective and it's really fun. So, yeah, or man, I call it the Battlefield Special, where you get in a vehicle at your main base, you get to the edge of the map, and I'm telling you, 8 times out of 10, it's got a really good success rate. And this has had a really good success rate since like Bad Company. I don't know when people are gonna. I don't know if people use this in modern combat. Maybe I have invented a new form of espionage. But all you gotta do is get into a vehicle, ride the edge of the map, go all the way around, and then take like the objective on the other side of the map. And it works a lot
yes, it
because
does. Yes,
you
because they
know
think it's always safe.
yeah. So nobody's there, and then all of a sudden you flip the game because the enemy team has to send people back to defend it, so they're not attacking the forward objectives, and that's so much fun to do. And even if you hold it for like a minute and then lose it, that's still troops that are being brought back. That's still
Yeah.
enemy players that have to run back on the map and do something. So yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's good to play. I'm gonna play so much more this weekend. I can't wait. Yeah. I think that's kind of all I want to say about Battlefield 6. We'll get into something else. Is there anything else you'd want to say about the reaction or anything
Well,
like that?
yeah. I mean, I kind of want to get to the point that this release of Battlefield has been the most positive that they've had in quite a while, and I think this is You know what? I'm shouting into the void here because I completely forgot that EA was just bought by private equity or Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah, it's a combination of both.
That's
Do we
right.
want to broach that, and then we can? You want to hold on to your point?
Uh, no, I could just say it right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I basically was just gonna say, take the right
Message.
lessons
Listen, yeah.
from this release, and build upon it rather than just throw it away for the next release. But we'll see what happens now.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people have that sort of reaction. So I'm going to read a statement from the United Video Game Workers CWA Local 9433. They posted a statement about so it was an acquisition, Saudi Arabia, with a couple different private equity companies acquired Electronic Arts, and the deal has not been closed yet. It's not going to be closed for like a year or so, maybe more. But it's going to take EA private, and that's never a good thing for workers. That's never a good thing for creativity. That's only good for investors and executives, the people who I don't know should just go away. But it's a little long, the statement, but I'm going to read the whole thing because I was trying to take like a paragraph out, but every paragraph is like really good. So I'm just going to read the whole thing, and then we can yeah, because I would like to talk about the point that you just made. So yeah, again, this is United Video Game Workers CWA Local 9433. The recent proposed acquisition of Electronic Arts by the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia and private equity firms, including Jared Kushner's affinity partners, will further concentrate power and wealth in the hands of a few gatekeepers while doing nothing to address the concerns of players and workers. EA is not a struggling company, with annual revenues reaching 7.5 billion and 1 billion in profit each year. EA is one of the largest video game developers and publishers in the world. EA's success has been entirely driven by tens of thousands of EA workers whose creativity, skill, and innovation made EA worth buying in the first place. Yet we, the very people who will be jeopardized as a result of this deal, were not represented at all when this buyout was negotiated or discussed. We are particularly worried about the future of our studios that are arbitrarily deemed less profitable, but whose contributions to the video game industry define EA's reputation. Since 2022, an estimated 40,000 video game workers have already lost their jobs due to mass layoffs at AAA and indie studios alike. As reported in Game Developer, this deal will result in EA having to finance nearly 20 billion in debt. Who will be spared? Which corners will be cut? Which corners will executives cut? And what studios will be sacrificed in order for that to happen? If jobs are lost or studios are closed due to this deal, that would be a choice, not a necessity, made to pad investors' pockets, not to strengthen the company. Every time private equity or billionaire investors take a studio private, workers lose visibility, transparency, and power. Decisions that shape our jobs, our art, and our future are made behind closed doors by executives who have never written a line of code, built worlds, or supported live services. We are calling on regulators and elected officials to scrutinize this deal and ensure any path forward protects jobs, preserves creative freedom, and keeps decision-making accountable to the workers who make EA successful. However, we also recognize that regulators and elected officials alone will not save the video game industry. Only we can truly do that. Organizing is the only thing that guarantees workers a real voice when ownership changes hands, and it's the only way to ensure that the people who make video games have a say in how they're run. The value of video games is in their workers. As a united force, we, the members of the members of the industry-wide Video Game Workers Union, UVW-CWA, are standing together and refusing to let corporate greed decide the future of our industry. So I thought that was a really strong and 100% true statement. And
Yeah.
yeah, and there was like nothing. Every other paragraph is like yes, yes, banger, banger, banger. So I was like, I'm just gonna have to read this whole entire thing. But and it's correct. And unfortunately, I don't think Andrew Wilson or anybody else that could make a change really gives a shit, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but on to your point about what should Battlefield take away? What should EA take away from Battlefield 6's success? And I think one thing is we don't need Battlefield 7 by like 2027. It's okay, right? Like you can take your time there. I think the other thing is stick with simplicity. I don't know, stick with basics. You don't have to shake things up too much. I think you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't mean you can't come up with new things. And the other thing is, if we know what EA's like stupid expectations for Battlefield 6 are, lower your expectations and be happy for what it is.
Yeah.
Because what it is already a huge success. This could inject life into a series that had ran out of gas. I mean, a series that was once going toe to toe with Call of Duty, and then sort of willed away and was there, but now it's like back as a force. But unfortunately, it takes more time. It's more substantial, and I think it's worth more than yearly sequels, right?
Right.
So be happy with that because that's a successful formula. The other thing, and I'm writing something about this right now. I didn't talk about the single player, but I think we need to. I don't know how much money is spent on Battlefield single player, um, or what kind of resources are allocated, but I think somebody needs to make a decision about what Battlefield single player is supposed to be. Because if it's going to be what I played, if that is the future of Battlefield single player, it is a waste of time. And I say that with respect because I know people worked hard. Game development is difficult. So I don't want to sit here and say like you should have just quit your job or something like that, or that your work was meaningless. It's not meaningless. But Battlefield 6's single player is it's so safe, it's so cliched, it's so uninspired, it's so unsurprising, it's so boring, it's so dull. And what frustrates me is that I don't know. We always talk about how expensive games are, and oh my god, games are so expensive, and oh my god, how are we going to pay for these games? And it's like, okay, well, take a look at the success of Battlefield 6 and ask yourself what needs to be here and what can we improve. And I feel like, can you do something else with single player? Can you, if you're going to spend resources on it, can we figure out a different way to do things than a bog standard? I wrote one sentence for my draft, and it's something like Battlefield 6's single player is like a parody of a bad Call of Duty campaign. Like it's just silly. And it doesn't have to be that way, I think Battlefield 5 had an interesting idea and won, where it's like, you do little stories, and each story is kind of its own thing, its own tone, its own theme. And not perfect, but I don't know, at least it was interesting and different, and you got to see different locales and stuff like that. But Battlefield 6 is just not that. If we're figuring out like what Battlefield 6 is, I think that's the thing that EA's not going to do that because that makes sense. Instead, EA is like, okay, how do we turn this into FIFA? And I think that's the last thing you should do is turning it into FIFA, right? Is trying to figure out how to make it a live service thing because there is a ceiling here to what Battlefield can be, and I think we may be close to that ceiling right now in terms of popularity and gameplay. But Battlefield is not Call of Duty. I just don't think. I don't know, unless. I mean, I'm sure EA could spend the money to build a similar infrastructure, but is it going to be as successful? Like, I don't think so. Again, partially because, like, I know my role. I know what I want to play. I don't need to do this again next year, I don't need to build this all out all over again. This process that I'm doing with like figuring out how I want to play the game, how I want to play Battlefield. I would like to do it in another Battlefield down the road, but in a sustainable way where we get meaningful meaningful sequels or whatever. Not where it's Call of Duty and it's just sort of the same thing year after year and whatever. And I do think there is a distinction there. So I hope EA knows what it has, and I hope investors understand that they know what they have, and they understand the scale of what they have. I do not think this can be as popular as COD. I don't think this can be as popular as FIFA, obviously. And it's just because of the nature of what the thing is, right? It is, I don't know, 25% more complicated than Call of Duty, right? And that 25% is enough to shave off a huge chunk of people, and that's okay. And the more you add to that percentage, the less and less people are going to play the game because the more narrow it becomes. So on one end of the RPG spectrum, you have Cyberpunk, and it's like, okay, a lot of people played this. It's an action RPG. On the other end, you have Metaphor ReFantazio, or you have Pillars of Eternity, right, which are more sort of hardcore, quote unquote, RPGs with more crunchy mechanics, and those are never going to have the popularity that Cyberpunk has because they're just not built for that. Not everybody is going to like that. Not everybody's going to like
Right.
David Lynch. Not everybody's going to like, I don't know, fucking, I can't name bands. I don't know, if Connor were here, he could name like an obscure band, the Butthole Surfers or whatever that punk band is called. That's just not everybody's band, but that's okay. And you set them in that market exists, and you can create a sustainable business on that market. So that's what I should have said is you have to find Battlefield's like market where it is, its sweet spot, instead of trying to make it grow when there's probably isn't growth to be had, right? And I think we may be close to that already. Um, so react to that and don't react to how do we turn this into COD, or how do we
Right.
turn this into Roblox, which is their other like idea. And yeah, sorry, was there anything else you wanted to say about this?
No, I know that when you're talking about the, and it has nothing to do with the topics that we're on right now, but when you're talking about the single player for Battlefield, I remember we're past that era, and I hope that it circles back. But if you never played them, I remember getting, Medal of Honor Underground for the PS1, and how like that game was based around the female soldier who you know
She
went
was in the
under
French
disguises.
Resistance or whatever.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
in the French Resistance. Yeah, and was under disguises and stuff. Like I know nowadays not so much, but there's so many stories that I feel can still be told from the past. That if you did want to make like, and I understand it's so much more work because you'd have to create these, not the set pieces, but you have to create these levels. You have to create all this stuff. But yeah, it's a shame that we don't get. They keep trying to make a blockbuster movie, but we don't get movies that are, or no, not movies. I'm sorry, we don't get single player games that have uplifting stories or stories of heroism that we used to
Mhm.
when it came particularly to the PS2 era of
Oh
games
man,
like the Brothers in Arms series.
you're
And
broaching on an interesting topic. Let me tell
oh,
you,
I know.
because
Well, yeah,
if I could interject for a second,
go for it.
because at the sorry, that was a really you can finish your point. Go
No, no,
ahead.
go. No, oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm just, I just yawned. No, go. Like, please go for it because it's. I'm just gonna start listing off like all the games that had those types of stories that we're not getting anymore.
Because those games were set in World War II, right? Which
Yes,
was the good
exactly, correct.
war, which was the just
Well,
war.
yes,
For the
yes.
most part, right? Obviously, history is simplistic. It wasn't good guys versus bad guys. It was mostly bad guys, but also good versus like inherently evil, very bad guys, and the better guys won. But uh, yeah, because in the last 20 years, the United States has been embroiled in a bunch of meaningless nothing wars, right? With lots of death and destruction, and so it's like it's difficult for us to have games where it's like we warfare is like idealized or whatever, because the past 20 years, the past 50 years of American warfare has been war crimes, from Vietnam up to Afghanistan and Iraq. So yeah, in that vein, and then you have like the advent of terrorism, right? Global terrorism, which is just depressing and sad. So all those things make for like a difficult modern. I think the only game that maybe successfully did like a lighthearted modern combat thing, Battlefield Bad Company, and that was just because it was slapstick humor and it was kind of a parody, and
Yeah.
I don't think the humor totally ages well, but for the most part it was fine because it was ridiculous and it knew it was ridiculous, and so it kind of stuck with that. But yeah, it's like can you tell a story like that in a modern context? And I'm not sure if you can, which why, but so I'm not sure what you do, but it's just on to my point, like uh, decide make sure this is what you want to do with Battlefield, where you want to have some ridiculous story that I don't know how much money it's going to cost, but it's like super cliched, super safe, super dull and boring, and it's going to cost so much resources. And that's what you want to do instead of trying to do something else that may be a little more risky, but you may find is more innovative or more interesting. And so yeah, which I'll leave it there. Okay. What are we at? What are we at? We are at. I don't know where to look. Oh wow, we're at an hour 20. Okay, I think we'll end it there. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Old games.
What's up? Sorry, you cut out for a second.
Oh, I said I miss old games.
Yeah, me too, me too. Okay, follow us youtube.com/gaming discourse, patreon.com/the gaming discourse. Next week we may be back in studio, we may not, I'm not sure. Follow us on Patreon and I'll post there. And also I'm going to talk about a new video I'm working on that hopefully will be done like sometime in November, maybe not before the end of October, but maybe mid-November. I don't really know, but I'll bring if you follow us on Patreon, I'll bring you up to speed on that. We will see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.